Who thinks home warranties suck?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, my name is Lisa Sutherland and I represent Garner Home Warranty. And my first question is, how many of you just think home warranties just suck? Everything you've heard, they suck. Everything you've experienced, they suck. Okay. Well, let me tell you, I suck the least. Okay. And I'm very proud of that because I worked very hard to make you suck the least. Guard home warranty is not your traditional home warranty. So if there's someone else you use, I'm not a competitor of them because I do things differently. And how am I different? We use you can use your own contractor with us 100% of the time. If you need some help finding someone, your clients do, usually I will come back to you and ask you, who do you like? Who do you suggest? Because you know their personality and you know who would be a fit for them. And plus we want to leverage their quality of work as well. So they pick who they trust to come into their home. I say that's important because we have so many people moving in that don't know anybody. So we want to be a main point of contact. So they would come out and they file a claim online. They come out, they do it, they call in, they give us a diagnosis, bam. So no longer waiting for 2 or 3 weeks for AC in July. Hopefully you did it in 2 or 3 weeks. Now I know because I lived that life for 8 years. Okay, so I know the life of waiting for contractors, going through the bureaucracy, having to get approved. Oh, let's get a second opinion. All the rigmarole. And to begin with, there's 48 hours when the tech will call you to make an appointment. So you've already lost 2 days. I have seen hot water heaters changed in the same day. Okay. So what is a home warranty anyway? Everybody know what one is? Pretty much. It's there to offset cost of failures to major appliances and systems. So what are major appliances and systems? I use the acronym PEACH always. And that means it's going to cover your plumbing, and that includes your hot water heater. Did you need something? Okay. That includes your plumbing, which is your hot water heater and all your things that need plumbing. Your electrical issues, that's going to be your outlets, your plugs, your switches. Just ceiling fans fall under this. Garage door openers fall under this. Doorbells, and then your appliances. We basically have one plan. We don't have a lot of stuff. One plan that covers everything. Okay, so it is going to cover washer, dryer, refrigerator, stove, microwave, disposal, dishwasher. It's all going to include that. Now we do have a product that, say someone is gutting the kitchen, that they just cover the systems only. It's $150 less is basically what it is. So anyway, that's what that is. So like I said, I'm going off the seat of my pants here.
Doing great.
So I just want to tell you why do you need one? Why do you need to talk about it to your buyers? Number one, and I have a great picture for this, is to cover your assets. Okay, is to cover yourself. Because I don't know if you all have noticed, but buyers are pretty crazy right now, or they have been for a few years. They're just food. So that's so anyway, that's why you want to get a home warranty. It is going to be budget protection for your buyers and for your sellers. It's going to give them peace of mind. Now, if you were to go in the car lot and you saw as is and with the warranty, even if this one has cloth seats and this one has leather, even if it has more miles, you're going to pick this one because you feel better getting it. So that's why you want to have coverage for your sellers as well. Now, what I like to do is, if you give me a buyer order, I'm going to go in and start protecting that seller myself. There's no cost to protect your seller. We don't charge any cost for the HVAC. I know that some folks, you have to pay a extra charge to have the HVAC covered. Otherwise, it's everything else. And some don't want to even cover appliances. We waive all that. So I'm going to protect it from the time the offer is accepted go forward, because that gives me proper working order. Also, if that buyer finds something on the inspection report, that's a way that they can say, you can come back and say, hey, you know what, maybe we could talk to Lisa and she can talk to the seller or the seller's agent and see what we can do about it. I've had great relationships develop because of that. And, sometimes we can be each other's worst enemy, but we are each other's best asset. So, always protect your sellers. That is now, in order to protect your sellers, you're going to need, it has to occur during the listing period. Okay. So the sooner you put a listing on, or the sooner you tell me. Now, whenever you put in that MLS or whatever, is up to you. But once you tell me, I'm going to start coverage. So from that time, let's say someone wants to put it on in May. Go ahead and let's put the warranty on it, because I already have a month of proper working order. And right now with the HVACs, everybody's turning them on. They're going to see what kind of trouble they have. They're going to find those problems. And then if they call it in first or second day, it's not going to be covered. And why? Because if it is a leak in the coil, which usually that's what it is, it takes about 3 weeks for that coil for it to matter, if you're going to be able to tell. So if they call it in the first week, we know it was a pre-existing condition for that seller. So keep that in mind. The sooner I put a policy on it, I mean, there's no cost. It's a no-brainer. We'll just cancel it. It doesn't matter. However, I don't get paid, just like you don't get paid, if it doesn't convert and convey to a buyer. So I tell folks, you know what? This is to help you grow your business, because it can make a hero out of you for covering something for your seller, because that's a soft blanket for them, and you're not charging them for it. So, but I tell folks, I'll dance for you on the table a few times, not get it, but I'm gonna put my clothes on about the third or fourth one, okay? Just so you know. So anyway, because we are partners. With that being said, seller's coverage, let's see, where's my name? Oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you why I'm here. I forgot a little bag here. I didn't want to put it, but this is to talk about twigs of the tway. Okay? Twigs of the tway. Pass it down. So, in other words, he who knows most wins in a situation with home warranties. So, another, why should you put a warranty on it? Peace of mind, budget protection, and it's in your contract. I know I've got an old one, so it's down here now. It's on page 11. It's 910, I think. If you don't, sometimes you just want to make your offer as clean as possible. I get that, and I want you to if it's something that's a hot product. But ask for it at due diligence. Ask for it, because all they can say is no. All they can say is no. But also, if nothing else, educate your buyers, because if something happens after the fact and you told them about it, they're not going to call you. Okay? But if they have a home warranty, they may call you for my number, even though the first thing I tell them to do is to put my name in their contacts as home warranty. I could have some water. Could you give me some cool is to put it in their contacts, because I am not an 800 number. I answer my phone. I'm their single point of contact. I am not going to put you off to thank you, for I'm not going to call you or your clients. off to a 1-800 number to dial 3, 4, or 6, and then they're waiting, and you got the wrong person, and then they hang up with you after you've been on the holding for like 30 minutes. That's not me. That's not me. It will never be me. It never has been me, because I'm too controlling. I need to know what's going on. She can tell you I'm the biggest control freak you can imagine. I want to know it all. I don't want to be the last to know. I figured that out whenever I had a boyfriend in the 10th grade. I don't like being the last to know. So make sure you do that. Now, let me tell you when you can buy the warranty. You do not have to get it when you close. Some folks just can't afford it. Some folks, the seller's not paying, the agent's not paying, so it's just not gonna happen. After they close, within 30 days, if they call and they want a warranty, it can start that day. If it's after 30 days, up to 100 years since they closed, we can still put the same warranty on it. It's not a watered down version, like you'll hear some that they have $500 for the refrigerator and blah, blah, blah. Those things are useless. That's why home warranties have a bad name, because of those programs. So you can put it on. Now, there will be a 30-day wait, but that's okay. All right? Because we have to have some parameters for determining if something is eligible for coverage. And eligibility is that it was in proper working order at the time. It's within the parameters of the foundation, and the damage is due to normal wear and tear. Always remember that. That's all you need to know. Okay. All right. Am I running out of time? Huh?
Yep, you're on your last lap here, Lisa.
So, well, that's your fault. You so throw it off on me. So that's one thing. Now, that is a good way to make a touch point. Also, with your home warranties, our plan is $649. Each warranty comes with $100 kitty, okay, that you can use to discount the warranty. And I always present it as though it's a gift from you. Or you can use it to grow your business, however you feel, however you want to do that. All RESPA compliant, everything is fine. I just want to the Russ the Bob Lake. Okay, so who's gonna give you a shot?
I always give you a shot because but I don't drink.
Okay. Yeah, give me a shot. I know you don't want to go. Here you go.
Sure.
So just give me a shot. And like I said, one thing to remember, use your own contractor. I'm not traditional. No upfront service fee. That's one thing I forgot to tell you. No upfront service fee. So whenever they call in, they're not eager to collect $100 from them. What will happen is we will deduct the $95 from their reimbursement. Okay. So in other words, if we don't pay them, they don't pay us. So it's no risk to file a claim. It is or it isn't. Any questions?
I'm just gonna say that, like, in the past, I follow Lisa, whatever company she's going to be, because when she says she's personal, she is very personal. And if you have a client who is having trouble with the home warranty, like, Lisa will go to bat for them, and they can call her personally and to get it taken care of.
Yeah, that's why I have fireballs, because I'm a ball of fire.
Yes.
There you go.
Like I said, one thing, do not let them call in, because they could get frustrated, even though, it's a small company and we're all based in the United States. Even our call center is in the United States, everything. I just want to know, because you know what? They talk too much. Whenever they call, they run their mouth. And this is not an essay. Okay?
If they even pick up the phone, right?
Yeah, it's not an essay, but no, they start talking about, oh, my husband said, and blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, they have disclosed that they knew about it. And they didn't do their due diligence.
Yep.
So, anyway, that's what I'm all about.
Awesome, Lisa. Thank you so much. You brought some great home cooked food as well.
I
So
did. I cook for you all. See, that's why you work with old people. You work with old people because they don't have anything else to do.
awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Let me get this back over. Yeah.
Keith, I'm passing around the class schedule for this month.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we got a great class schedule. We also have some CE coming up as well. We have a disc course. So everybody know what a disc profile is? We actually have Mary Lou. She wrote a CE course on the disc, and you can get credit, 4 hours credit. So we got that coming up on April 16th. We have a BIC up on April 18th. We have a Jet up on May 23rd and June 4th. Yeah, we're already coming to the end of the licensing year really quick, so make sure you get those hours in. We also have a Gen Up and the same disc course in Fuquay on May 13th. And then we have a Gen Up, a disc, and a Gen Up in the Fayetteville location as well. So check those out on therealschoolinc.com. All right, it is spring. The spring market is here, everybody. Yay, yay, yay. Are we busy?
Yeah, kind of, and it's weird.
Well, good. That's why we're here. These are my favorite type of classes, the masterminds, because instead of me just up here talking, trying to teach, I'm learning from you all because we're all going to talk about our experiences so far in the spring market, and some other things, how we can convert better leads, some pricing strategies and stuff like that. So let's just talk. I mean, has anybody had, compared to last year?
Oh, this is so much better.
We're seeing that I'm starting to see more buyers out. I will say that. Definitely.
Those of us that weren't here last year.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely more buyers out this year. They've adjusted. They've come down a little bit on what they said the total sales were going to be for the United States this year, slightly. But the good news is it is projected to be above what it was last year. So we're headed in the right direction. But yeah, so I've had some listings. I've had some buyers I've been working with. Everything's moving a lot slower. I will say the number one thing I will say with my buyers, I'm going on a third showing for a house after this class. 4 years ago, you could barely get through your first showing before it went under contract. Now, the buyers are afforded the ability to shop around, to actually look over the house, go back and make sure it's the one. And I'm seeing that a lot with my listings of, yeah, they're going to make an offer, but, they want to go check out a couple other things, or they really, really like the house, but they want to go make sure, see what else is out there. Is anybody else kind of seeing the same thing? Or is that their buyers sharing the same sentiment?
You're taking your time process.
Yeah, which I mean, I'm happy for because working with buyers prior to this, when they had to make snap decisions, was so stressful. Because you basically told them, oh, you like it? Well, we have to go write an offer right now. So it's definitely more comfortable working with buyers, and a little more uncomfortable working with sellers because obviously recency bias for them is that things are flying off the shelf and multiple offers and as soon as you put it on the market it's going to sell. So on the flip side of that, are we seeing any multiple offers out there? Are you guys running into that at all?
I've had two. I've got a small sample size, three under contract, and two of them were multiple.
And you were on buy side or sell side? Buy.
Yeah, in the 800,000s too. I mean, it was
Wow.
kind of surprising.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. You think it's location specific more?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know. Well, actually, one was $500,000 and one was 800, and one was in Wendell. Like, I mean, it was a good ways out there.
Yeah.
And one was in. Actually, they're both in Wendell.
Yeah.
With the second one being closer to Middlesex. But yeah, I don't know that it was location on either of them.
Yeah. Interesting. Does anybody else run into any?
It's weird, like I've had a couple on the buy side, I've been in multiple offers, but then I've got a listing that I literally have had no showings on and I am just completely baffled.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just don't. It just seems like there's no rhyme or reason, there's no pattern you can go by, it's just like, whatever.
Haley, I see your comment. I'll give you her information after. I'll post it in the chat. Yeah, so let's kind of switch gears a little bit. How are you guys generating and converting more leads this spring? The one thing I will say is in years past, and this is speaking as an experienced agent, there was a time when I had, a pipeline that was rather robust and you kind of had to classify your leads, so to speak, as prioritize these because they're ready to buy right now, or ready to sell right now, and then the next level is 1 to 3 months, and then 3 to 6 months, and then so on and so forth. Now the best piece of advice that I've heard is no matter the time frame, no matter anything, if there's some type of semblance of them wanting to buy or sell, you dig into that lead, just because they're fewer and far between right now. I mean, it's definitely slower. So in the past, where you may have had the ability to only work with the stronger leads, or the more motivated leads, I'm finding myself having to dig in more with the non-motivated leads for two reasons. A, to kind of go through their objections and see if we can overcome those. And then B, because I still want them to be in my pipeline when they are ready. Whereas before I may have been a little more careless in communication. Now I'm being very, very deliberate with keeping those people in touch. And circling back around to the objection handler. So one of the things I've done, or I'll give you two examples. So I have one friend and you probably have the same type of friend or client. They've been wanting to buy for like 2 or 3 years now. They're waiting for the right time, and something always comes up, or oh, we're gonna wait for rates to drop, or something came up with the kids. So I've just been staying in touch, and I did my check up on him in January, and he said, I think this may be the year, but we're really still waiting for rates to drop. Of course, I don't know if you guys have heard, they're not expecting rates to drop very far this year. Where they originally were possibly thinking into the low sixes, now they're saying maybe 6.5 is where we're going to end up at the end of this year. So obviously I kind of put that in his ear, but I also started digging into new construction, because what do we know about new construction right now?
Buy down the right.
They're giving, I mean, I just closed on Adams Home, 4.9%. They paid all the closing costs.
Yeah.
So if you have a wishy-washy buyer that's kind of giving you we're waiting for rates to come down, give them that option, because they may not know. I always say when we're in this class, we live, eat, breathe real estate every day. So a lot of times I think we assume the public knows more than they do.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things to overcome is, these buyers know these new construction people are giving away everything to sell houses. Well, a lot of them don't. Yeah, the big signs are out front, but they may not even be paying attention to those signs when they drive over this community. So
You don't even really understand what it means.
yeah, exactly. So educating your buyers on, hey, if you're waiting for rates to come down, perfect opportunity right now. This one new construction their rates are already down. The other thing, another example I'm giving is I had a police officer she was gonna sell her home, but she decided not to. But she's been a really good resource of referrals to other police officers in her department. And I got in touch with one, and I knew I was gonna be talking with them. So the first thing I did was call a handful of lenders that I knew and said, okay, what do you have for police officers? I know you have first responder programs. Some did, some didn't, but I was able to get him in touch with a couple of lenders that had first responder programs that were available for him. So that kind of showed my value that, I was going out of my way just to find these programs for him. So that kind of solidified me as his agent to use. So just a couple examples of in the past, and like I said, I know some of you guys are newer to real estate, but in the past, if I had 5 active buyers that I was taking out pretty actively, and I had another buyer that was kind of wishy-washy, I would just kind of put them on the back burner. And you can't afford to do that these days, because things are happening quick where I have active buyers that are falling out of active buying, and then I'm looking to replace them. And long story short is it's just it's a down year, so make sure that you are holding on to those leads. Dig in, you have to. Do you guys agree kind of with that? Are you seeing more wishy-washy buyers? Are you seeing the same type of thing where they're saying, hey, we want to wait for rates to drop, or stuff like that?
Yeah, I had a situation where they were looking for a single family home buyers, and by chance there was some new condos being built, and that rate 4.99, and brand new construction, they totally flipped on what they were looking for, hit a different lifestyle that they weren't thinking of doing.
Yeah,
And it worked. It
Yeah.
worked. I think from what I'm hearing from a lot of the on-sites is that agents are not doing enough to drive their clients to the new construction and take
Yeah.
advantage of those deals.
yeah. And like I said, I mean, and then also it's also let's take it one layer back. I mean, how many agents are uneducated on that? That may not know. I mean, they may not be afforded the builder rep that comes in and sponsors lunch for them. They don't have trainings like that going on where they're getting that information fed to them. And that's kind of the only link that these builders reps have is going to, team meetings or sponsoring trainings and stuff like that. So, it's very interesting, but yeah, so I guess what I will say is, kind of wrapping up this portion of it, leads are scarce. It's going to take a lot more nurturing than it used to keep them going. But on top of that, also make sure that you're showing value to secure them if it is somebody that's going to be a little ways off from buying or selling. So let's talk listing and buying. How we've had some listings, we've been working with some buyers. Winning pricing and negotiating strategies. So let's talk listings first. What is the conversation y'all are having with your sellers right now when talking pricing or marketing their home?
We price it right from the beginning, then we have less chances of it selling for less than what we're asking for, and the listing price is just a marketing tool.
And let me ask you, dig in on that. What is listing right? How are you describing what it means to list right to begin with to your seller?
Well, I mean, first you have to feel your seller out. Are they expecting to get 500,000 on their house when every other house is selling for 450? So you have to have that conversation. But if they are, reasonable people and are like, hey, we see the houses are selling for 450, let's not. I think the biggest issue that I've had with sellers is they have this mindset of we'll start high and then we'll let the buyers negotiate. And I think that that's how it used to work a lot in the 80s and 90s, but I feel like now it doesn't so much. I'm not saying nobody ever comes in low, but I feel like you get more people in if you're priced right from the beginning.
And I'm also seeing where the sellers think or they're expecting a low ball offer, but they're just not coming. And they're asking, well, why should we drop? Or what difference is dropping, like doing a $5,000 price drop? I had a conversation about doing a $5,000 price drop and selling. Well, what does it even matter? Why wouldn't a buyer just come in and offer $5,000 asking price? And once again, you kind of have to step out of the bubble. Where in life really are you allowed to look at a sticker price of something and say, hey, you know what? Instead of that, we're going to give you this much less than that. It's not something that consumers, it's not in their mentality. So when they see that a seller wants, 300,000 for their house, they're kind of apprehensive to offer anything lower than that because that's just not how commerce works, if that makes sense, I
feel like I've been in the business for 10 years now, and ever since I got in the business, I started out in a it wasn't as bad as 21, but you would have a lot of multiple offers and you would generally have to go in at 5,000 over to win the house.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So because we've had that mindset for so long, I feel like people just don't have the mindset of negotiating anymore. They feel like if they want it, they got to pay what the seller wants for it. They don't understand motivation.
That and like I said, I tell my sellers that they're nerds. A buyer thinks they're going to offend you if they give you less than all, and that's what I try to tell my sellers is this is the way the buyers or their minds are working. But as far as pricing, the one thing I'm telling is that we have to price where the market's going now rather than where the market's been.
Yeah, that's good.
And where what I mean by that is, 2, 3, 4 years ago, you had this house up for 300,000. Neighbor's going to put up their house. Guess what? We're putting our house up for 310 because that's where the market's going. Well, now it's doing that in reverse.
Yeah.
Where you're getting inventory piling up and you're having 4, 5, 6 houses in this $20,000 range. And then a new listing comes in and they say, well, all these houses are listed for that. I'm going to list mine for that because they're afraid they're going to miss out and they're afraid that, oh, well, those houses are going to end up selling and mine's not if I sell for less. I literally went through this with I went through this twice, and one was successful, one wasn't. Townhome community, tons and tons. There's probably 7 townhomes for sale in this townhome community, all varying from the 270s all the way down to the 230s. And of course, there was variations of finishes in houses. Some had hardwood, some had, granite, some had been updated, so on and so forth. But they're all pretty much the same. And my client's townhome wasn't in the greatest shape. He didn't have a lot of money to do anything to it. It needed carpet, it needed paint. He barely was able to get it painted. But I showed him everything. I said, look, these are all your competition that we're looking at right now. And the thing that got me was the 2 comps that had recently sold in the 230s. So I said, these people that are here still in the 250s having townhomes exactly like theirs sold in 230s, they're just going to be on the market. So we agreed that we needed to undercut the community because of the condition of the house, but also because the comps were 230s. So we listed for 225. The average days on market in that community was like 100 days, 120 days, and we were under contract in 15. Fast forward, I had a meeting with an expired a couple weeks ago. Very similar situation, duplex townhomes. 7 of them in the community for sale, including the next door neighbor duplex that had come on the market while she was on the market. And similar situation. They're all listed in the 250s and 260s. She had been on the market for 45 days. We talked back and forth, and she had considered listing it herself because then she wouldn't pay commission and then she could undercut everybody. And because basically we talked back and forth, I said, I'm going to be completely honest. As an expired listing and in this market, you're going to have to severely drop your price if I list it, because it's pointless to go back in the middle of all this competition. Well, she ended up going limited service this time and listed it right back up in the mid 250s along with all the other houses. And there's actually houses that are for sale in her neighborhood for $10,000 less. And I just couldn't explain it to her. She just didn't get it. Because I actually told her, I said, it actually makes sense to sell it yourself if you're going to price it way under just to get it sold. Because I'm not going to tell her that it doesn't make sense because you're not going to pay my commission. And if you sell it for 10 or 15 grand under where everybody else is at, it's probably going to get some looks and probably get sold. But she ended up doing that. So that's what I mean by pricing as far as where the market's going. Let's flip it over to the buy side, working with buyers. What are you, I'm sorry. One more thing, winning pricing and marketing strategies. A good thing, how are you going to make your listing stand out in this market? A good thing is getting warranty up front, seller paid warranty already under effect, like Lisa was talking about. What are some other things you all are seeing that are, setting houses apart?
What if you have your sellers do an inspection up front?
Inspection up front.
That, at the ready.
Mm-hmm.
Just more information, more disclosure, more transparency.
I like that. Although I did run into an issue one time where I had the inspection up front. We went under contract and we got the new inspection that had a totally different list of issues. So, but yeah, of course, offering closing costs up front. Once again, those are only going to be as powerful as the buyer agents that are educating their clients what they can do with those closing costs. I know a ton of lenders, they're, in my ear about my listing has special financing offers. The one townhome that I did sell, that buyer took advantage and they got a $10,000 grant. I think it was the first Advantage Home program, but I'm not sure exactly which one it was. But advertising that these things are available because, like I said, maybe there's buyers agents out there working with buyers that aren't telling them that these things are available. Home warranty. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Free eggs. Right.
Coming down, egg prices.
Free eggs with the purchase, dozen or 2, leave them in the refrigerator. Mm-hmm. Oh, offering like getting an appraisal up front so you could show. That's kind of tough too because if the market's headed down, it's tough because then the seller is going to dig in even more sometimes because I see that being advertised by listing agents in the MLS. Oh, below appraised value. Well, of course, because when the market is kind of heading down a little bit. I mean, it's plateaued, but we're seeing a little bit of a dip. All right, let's flip it over to the buy side. As far as we know that the buyers kind of have a little more negotiating power now, especially if you're dealing with homes that have been on the market. Is that obviously what you guys are seeing as well?
Yeah.
What about as far as deposits, due diligence, earnest money? Obviously, we're not seeing the same
No, thank God.
crazy.
Yeah, this is the question I had, and it relates back to me last selling in 2021, 22, right? So you're taking due diligence checks and delivering due diligence checks that are absurd. And so after 4 contracts coming back, second time selling, 2 of them were multiple offers. The third one was, they had showings booked through the weekend. We viewed it on a Friday, so there was some activity that put the buyers under a little perceived pressure. But I know when it's multiple offers, I get that, like it all goes out the window.
Yeah.
You know, bring everything but the kitchen sink if you want the house, right? I was under the impression that maybe we were still in this due diligence heavy market because on the 2 that weren't multiple offers, that's what the listing agent, you know, I have a candid conversation with them. They're like, yeah, bring due diligence. That's what my seller wants to see, or my builder in one instance. And I'm like, why are we still doing this?
Yeah.
You know, isn't there some normalcy to the earnest and the due diligence?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that specifically, and that's kind of, I mean, obviously, though, you have to kind of take with a grain of salt. If they're listening to their client, they're listening to the client.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously, if that seller is just hearing non-refundable deposit, of course, they're going to want it to be larger. But yeah, that, you know, I'm seeing a more fair balance. I mean,
earnest and due diligence.
yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, and there was a point in time when the earnest money was out the window.
I know.
It was just all due diligence.
All due
Back up the truck of due diligence money and dump it out there. We're not gonna do any earnest.
That's what I was used
But it's definitely becoming more fair.
to. And I think some of the onus is on us as listing agents to set that expectation of sellers too.
I mean, the way I was taught when I first started was the purpose of the due diligence deposit was to cover the seller's mortgage payment that month.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
carrying costs.
You know,
Yeah.
that may, I mean, that's kind of off the cuff, but I mean, that makes sense,
You
you
can
know?
work from somewhere around.
Yeah, you can work
It's
around
a
that
fair-
number, yeah.
It's a fair number, yeah.
But at the same time,
It turned into abuse.
yeah, but at the same time, I'm not gonna lie, I sit in my listing appointments and in my buyer's appointments and tell them the same thing front to back. I said, as a listing agent, it's my job to make that number as high as possible.
For sure.
And on the buy side, it's my job to make that number as low as possible.
Yeah.
So, you know, but yeah, I'm seeing more normalization. And you kind of have to remember, like, how many people in this room started real estate in the past year or two, you know?
Yeah.
There's always a cycle of agents. Obviously, there's agents that have been in the game a while, and then you have a cycle of newer agents turning over. They may not realize that 2 years, 3 years ago, people were putting up $20,000 in due diligence. So, you know, that's the most fun part about real estate, and I say fun in quotes, is that it's every situation is going to vary because every agent is different.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't know what they're teaching, and you don't know how they're consulting and educating their clients. So, you know, that's what makes it fun.
So just hypothetical as a follow-up to that. Call it a deposit.
Mhm.
All right, what are we seeing in the market? I keep, you know, I know we can't set rates and we're not gonna do that. But I keep hearing 1% thrown around the purchase price, which I think is legit. I think that's fair. So are we seeing where that 1% is broken down between earnest and due diligence in a way?
1 to 3% probably broken down between the two.
Yeah.
1 to 3 as a deposit.
See, I kind of do it a different way. I kind of do it in brackets of price ranges, but obviously,
Depending on the price.
depending on the price range, I'll advise my buyer, let's start here.
Yeah.
And then also, full disclosure, I tell them, this is a lower due diligence fee. Because I'm trying to negotiate down for you. So don't be surprised if the seller comes back and says they want more.
Yeah.
You know, you make sure you're telling them that, because once again, We know that in our mind, they don't know that in their mind. Any amount of money, and you gotta tell them, thousands of dollars is thousands of dollars, so,
Exactly.
it's a big deal either way.
You don't always have to put the earnest money up front either. You
Yeah,
can
you
put
do
additional and have
Yeah.
it paid at the end of
Right.
due diligence, so that way they're not coming out of pocket as much
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
off top.
So I prefer additional for my buyers, yeah.
The only thing I can advise about additional is please make sure that check makes it before that date on that contract. Because that contract becomes null and void if that check is not there on time. And that had happened at my old brokerage, yeah, with somebody. It ended up being okay because the seller obviously wanted to sell the house, but at that point, the seller wanted to pull it because they had a backup offer, and guess what? You're in trouble, they can pull it. Marketing taxes, or any other negotiating strategies you're seeing with buyers. Obviously, we said they have the ability right now to shop around, to compare houses and stuff like that. Is there anything else you guys are seeing in their negotiating strategies?
Like you touched on at the beginning and with sellers too, closing costs paid for.
Yeah.
Asking for that, and able to get that quite a bit.
Yeah. And obviously, this all changes the longer the house has been on the market. Are you seeing a lot of kind of just a random question? Are you seeing, in your opinion, are we seeing the amount of price reductions we should be? Or do you see just some stubborn listings out there that are just, man, it's been 6 months and they haven't done a price drop? Are you kind of seeing a mix?
I've seen
I
it
do
more.
see those too, yeah, where they're not dropping or staying consistent, but then you don't know what their motivation is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
I had one that had actually moved out of the house and he refused to reduce it a dime. I mean, anything. And it went 6 months with one showing and the second showing it sold.
Yeah, it's weird. And that's another thing too. I feel like sometimes we see a house set for a while and it's not moving, then all of a sudden you get multiple offers on it.
That's what I
You're
had
like,
last
We had
week.
2 showings and somebody came by and picked it up.
That's crazy.
The house I went under contract with buyers on last Friday, it's in Fuquay. And they put it on in October of 24 for $460, I think. And we were at 420, which is what they had dropped to incrementally. And, having talked to the listing agent, they were competing with new construction that was very comparable, but they were way overpriced.
Yeah.
So we come in, it's been on the market for 5 months. So obviously we're like, yeah, we got some leverage. Well, now it's priced right. And so they're showings booked and the listing agent's like, yeah, I got some activity. Some people are telling me they're bringing offers. So yeah, to your point, that we experienced that, so.
Gotcha. I'm glad you said that last thing. That's another thing for you newer agents. There's always gonna be somebody that says they're bringing an offer.
Yes.
Don't
No,
Don't stop the brakes. Don't tell your clients just until it actually hits your mailbox. Because you'll get your clients all excited. They'll sell like, oh, the offer come in tonight. Because sometimes I don't think they're telling the truth.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think they're trying to motivate you to bring your offer, but just know that is said quite a lot. There's a house that I'm actually going to for the third showing right after this that we put an offer in. It was the first weekend. It was a little lower because we found some repairs that need to be done outside. And their response, they countered at full asking price and said, we've had a lot of activity. And of course, and another agent mentioned they were going to be bringing an offer. So they're going to go decline it by this time. Now that was on Saturday and now it's Wednesday and it's still on the market. We're still going out there. There's no other offers in hand, so. Let's see. Marketing taxes, we already talking about that. Time, man. So you guys, do you feel like you're getting busier? Do you feel like you've got more stuff going on? Because we have our core, our core work. Obviously, lead gen in the morning, making sure we're lead generating every day to make sure we're keeping that pipeline full. Are we seeing that we're getting pulled away now? After that, because we have to go showings here, we're going to have to put out this fire there. Do we feel like we're getting busy? A little busier?
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad that you all aren't like, yes, we're so busy because we're going to talk about time management tips real quick for that seasonal rush. Obviously, my biggest thing, and I'm terrible at it, so I hate when I sit up here and preach this because I sit down and try to do it, and then it's all on paper, it looks pretty, and then it just goes out the window when my day starts. But that's time blocking. Time block off that lead gen time block off for showings that afternoon. Because especially the newer agents, and I did this the same. It did not matter what time of day it was. It did not matter what day it was. When I was a newer agent and I had a buyer that said, "Hey, I want to go see this house," I'd be like, "Oh, great, I'm available right now. Let's go. When do you want to go?" Or they'd say, "Well, let's go on this day," and I may have something going on. It wasn't important. Maybe it was whatever. But I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah, that's perfect. Let me get rid of this." If you have your time block day, you can tell them when you're available to show that house. You're not lying. You're not lying if you tell them you have other appointments because everything's on a schedule. You are literally have appointments. You have an appointment to lead generate. You have an appointment to follow up on leads because it's on your calendar. So don't ever feel, and I know you'll get that feeling because you're excited, because I still get excited for you. I'm not gonna lie. I'll still tell the buyer right now. I'm not teaching. I'm out of here. I gotta go show a house. But you'll find yourself kind of giving instead of worrying more about your mental and your time management, stuff like that. So don't ever feel bad about telling them, yes, we could go look at this house, but this is when I'm available. I'm available Wednesday between 3 and 7. Will that work? Because on the flip side of that, if they really want to see the house, guess what they're going to do? They're going to make it work.
Yeah.
So
My when I was on a team when I first started, I never forget, my team leader told me, you just tell them that you have an appointment, because it doesn't matter if you're just soaking in the bathtub. That was an appointment with you.
yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, yeah, that's true. They don't know the difference.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, if you're not lying, you have it's on your calendar.
They actually prefer to work with people who are busy too,
Yeah.
so it's like we talk about even just giving the perception of staying busy.
Well, I mean, my whole thing is I don't call up my dentist or doctor and be like, I need to come in right now and not give a crap about, what other appointments they
Mhm.
have. So why is there an expectation that a realtor
It's
would do
because of, going back to where the market was as opposed to where it is. If
Yeah.
a house came on the market, you
that?
damn well
I know,
better
it's
go
awful.
Yep.
see it.
Better jump and go.
Yeah.
I've seen agents put on their website or their Facebook page that they're open 24/7.
Yeah.
That's not a good idea.
No, it's not.
They think they're being good, helpful, and
They're
they're just
not.
going in their business.
And you actually have some buyers that'll go and get an appointment with another agent to see the house that they want to see that day. Because there are agents, like you said,
Yeah.
that are anxious and they'll drop everything to go show them the house.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they're doing that too.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And I mean, don't live in an instant gratification society now anyway. So we're just unfortunately got roped into that as real estate.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, time block. Don't be afraid to tell your clients you're busy. And especially if you are busy, don't be afraid to kind of corner them into the times that you're available,
Exactly.
because like I said, they'll make it work. And then, if you come across somebody that's just impatient, maybe it's better that you just let them go anyway.
Exactly.
Let's see, how to set yourself up for continued success beyond spring. Obviously, what you are doing now for lead generation, some of it may be instant. You may find a buyer that's like, oh, let's go buy a house next week. But 9 times out of 10, the lead generation you're doing now is setting yourself up for summer, setting yourself up for fall. So make sure, just because if you get busy now, don't forget that you got to keep your pipeline full, especially going back to our original conversation today. Those leads are going to be scarce this year. They're not going to be as plentiful as in years past. So we want to make sure that we're continually, stoking the fire for the whole year, so to speak, and maintaining the connection with those people that say it may be 6 months, it may be 9 months. Because that's the other thing I will say, when you are doing your lead gen, don't just throw those to the side. Make a note. Tell them, I'm going to follow up with you. And if they're saying they're going to buy in 6 months, tell them you're going to follow up in 3. Because I can't tell you how many times I've been, doing Facebook lead gen or something, and I'll say, hey, you looking to buy or sell this year? We're getting a conversation. I'm like, yeah, I really think we're gonna start looking in August. And then I'll see them post in May or June that they bought a house
Mhm.
because I had talked to them since January.
Tom Ferry used to always say, however long they say they're gonna be, cut that time in half.
Exactly. So do you know how disheartening it is to see their standing in front of their new home on Facebook and me being like, I know I talked to them in January, pull up the Facebook conversation and it says plain right there, and you're just like, well, I wish I would have followed up with them sooner. So yeah, that's a good way to put it. Whatever they say their time frame is, cut that in half and make sure you're staying in touch then, because especially if they're telling you they're gonna buy.
Yeah.
So, because you don't know what's gonna, they could look at Zillow tomorrow and find their dream home,
Mhm.
or 3 months from then, so. Anybody else have any ideas for that continued success?
Take your downtime and follow up with your past clients.
Yeah. It's just more conversations. It's all about conversations right now. Especially because of the uncertainty in the market, and obviously that we've kind of been drilling home this whole hour is, the public's not as educated in real estate as we assume they are 9 times out of 10. So they don't know about the ability to save money right now while they're waiting to save money for rates to come down, or whatever. They don't know that the ability exists now in this market to ask for closing costs, to go get a rate buy down on a new construction that is probably a rate that we're never going to see in the next 5-6 years. 5% is pretty low. As funny as that sounds, considering what they are saying now about interest rates and where they're kind of leveling out and where they're at. So
I think 5 would be pretty phenomenal.
yeah. So. And the other thing is, guess what would happen, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, if rates drop to 5% tomorrow? You think everybody and their mama would come out buying houses, because that's what's going to happen. You think you're the only one that's financially savvy, sitting on the sidelines waiting for rates to drop to save money?
You'll be back in that market in 2020.
Yep. So that's all I got today, guys and gals. Any questions, any comments, anything else to share?
I have a question. Fairly new. I mean, I've only been doing it 2 years now. I dealt with a lot of new construction at other firms, so there was not a whole lot of wiggle room for negotiations. But whenever I helped a buyer on an older home, we negotiated. Right? But now I'm naturally a negotiator. I've never bought a car or anything without negotiating. Do you still see that? Because I have sort of been on a lull for a while, which is why I come over here.
Yeah.
So I'm not really.
It all
I'm
depends.
with buyers now,
It really depends on.
but-
It depends if basically if they're spec homes and they're already like Adams homes. They don't trigger that 4.99 until it's 80% done. So if they can't find a buyer for that house from the time it's dirt until the time it's 80% done, then they'll trigger all these incentives.
Right.
They have other incentives they offer before that. But that's when the really good ones start. Now,
what about like older homes? Like the homes that I got a few buyers looking at now, they're older. That looks like they've been flipped a little bit, but and I could ask my teammates too, but like that negotiating, do you feel like you still can negotiate now?
Absolutely.
Obviously, you've got to look at the days on the market and all the stuff, but I was just curious because I have one now looking at a house in Bailey, I think. And anyway, I just wondered, can you still negotiate strong, or is that seller gonna be insulted?
That's the thing. It's a case by case.
Yeah,
it's a case by case basis. But ultimately, what I tell my buyers, at the end of the day, there's a reason they have their house on the market,
right?
And that's because they want to sell it. Now, the whole argument or back and forth of what's better, a $10,000 price drop, or asking $10,000 off the price, or asking for $10,000 in closing costs.
Right.
It's been shown asking for $10,000 in closing costs saves you a whole lot more money.
Yeah.
Because what is it, $70 I think per 10,000, I think.
Yeah.
You're gonna save $70 on your mortgage for that $10,000 price drop. How many mortgage payments you have to make before you're equaling $10,000 in savings? But yeah, I mean that's especially if it's been sitting, I would encourage any type of negotiation.
Right.
I mean, does everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
I always call the listing agent too and see what I can.
Oh, yeah.
Get out of.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Call. I mean, I know everybody loves the text and everybody loves messaging like that, but man, you will not believe some of the things. You get an agent talking,
Yeah.
they will tell you they've got to be out of the country in 2 weeks, or they've got, just keep telling me all the stuff to help me negotiate.
Just don't be that agent.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely call and definitely find out. I mean, and I love when agents reach out with a generic, what's important to your seller. They just want the highest prices to get it sold at this point. Y'all walk through it. It's been on the market for 4 months. It's empty.
Yeah.
It's important that they sell it. So bring it over.
Yeah.
Right.
So awesome. We all dig into some of this food.
Hey, real quick.
Yes.
Presenting next Wednesday, so I would love to have all of your support here, please.
Excited.
So I'm not-
Tell them what you're talking about.
I am going to be talking about the C2EX endorsement through NAR that helps you be an even better realtor. And then also a little bit, not the whole thing, just a little bit about RPAC, because I am a trustee and just kind of, but that, I'm gonna make that a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a realtor social tonight in Wake Forest at the Real McCoy.
Okay.
5 to 6:30. They're gonna have some officials. The mayor's gonna be there in Wake Forest and another representative, free food, beer.
Nice.
So be there 5 o'clock to 6:30, Wake Forest, the Real McCoy.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All
And then
right.
we're doing another one. We're bouncing around. I'm an ambassador. And we're bouncing around the whole triangle. We're gonna be in Wendell, Nightdale, somewhere in there. In October, and then we were in Fuquay, I think, next quarter. And
Nice.
somewhere in between.
Yeah, definitely reach out to me when you're a few quick, because that's over in my neck of the woods. So awesome.
Fuquay.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, y'all have a great week. Appreciate y'all hanging out. We'll see you guys next Wednesday.
Thank you.